Hello, welcome to another Manga Spotlight. So this is the world of Otome games is tough for mobs, and this is a freaking fantastic series. Anyone who's enjoyed Eminence in Shadow, I highly recommend this. It's somewhat similar, just like the main characters kind of reminds me of Sid from that series, and just like the humor and stuff like that reminds me a lot of that series. So if there's anyone out there that has seen my Eminence in Shadow video, and they're like, you know what, is there anything like similar that you guys recommend? I highly recommend this. So let's just read the brief description that they have. So Leon, former Japanese worker, was reincarnated into an Otome game world and despaired at how it was a world where females held dominance over males. It was as if men were just livestock that served as stepping stones for females in this world. The only exceptions were the game's romantic targets, a group of handsome men led by the crown prince. In these bizarre circumstances, Leon held one weapon: his knowledge from his previous world, where his brazen sister had forced him to compete this game. This is a story about his adventure to survive and thrive in this world. Yeah, I would say that that's a pretty good description of what the series is. So before I get right into it, I didn't mention this in the previous videos, but anyone who's watching this on YouTube, you're only going to see this image and then the next image that I'm about to show you, and that's it. I'm not going to show you any interiors. And the reason for that is because YouTube does not do a very good job of protecting YouTubers when it comes from false copyright strike. So I've been hit in the past. So yeah, you're not gonna see any interiors unless you watch this on Odyssey or BitChute or Minds. If you watch it on any of those platforms, I will be showing you the interiors as I talk about them. On here, you're not gonna see anything just because, yeah, YouTube needs to do a better job of protecting its users from BS copyright strike. Anyways, I'm not gonna rant about that. Let's just jump right into it. So yeah, for anyone watching YouTube, this is the only image you're gonna see. Sorry about that, guys. Like, I would love to show you the interiors, but I can't. But yeah, we have our main character Leon. So we start off with our hero Leon in his normal world, and he's playing a Otome game. And for anyone who's not sure what an Otome game is basically a visual novel for women. If anyone doesn't know what a visual novel is, it's basically what it sounds like. It's a video game that's pretty much a novel with images, and then there might be the occasional gameplay, but the gameplay usually just revolves around choices. So it's basically like a choose your own adventure. I don't even want to really say game because there's usually not that much gameplay, but it's basically a choose your own adventure story with screenshots. This one has very brief gameplay, which Leon actually enjoys, but he hates playing Otome games. The only reason why he's playing is because his sister basically forces him to do it. Leon plays this one game and he gets really, really good at it, and he, uses money to like buy all the best equipment and stuff like that, and goes for, all the different paths and things like that. Basically, his sister forces him to 100% complete the game, which he does. And in this world, it's basically a fantasy world with swordsmanship and magic. It's a world with floating islands and airships. So picture some of the Final Fantasy games, but more of like Final Fantasy X, Final Fantasy 9, Final Fantasy 12, Final Fantasy Tactics. It's basically, there's technology, but it's like lost technology. There's airships, there's mechs though. Mechs are a thing. And in this game, basically, you play as a protagonist who's an ordinary girl from the countryside who enrolls into a school for nobles. And she's an honor student who was allowed to enter the school as a commoner. And there she meets like the prince and all the other nobles, and they're all like romantic targets. And, this girl gets picked on by the other girls from high society, who have high statuses because she's a commoner. And so you kind of, in this game, you have to work your way around that while falling in love with the nobles, and getting them as targets, basically. So our hero 100%s it, and immediately afterwards he like starts, I guess, having a heart attack or something. Like his vision goes blurry and he falls down a flight of stairs, and then he wakes up, and he wakes up as Leon Bartford, 5 years old, and he is the son of not a peasant, not a noble though, but so his father has like some land, so he's not like completely he's kind of a commoner though. I guess a commoner would be the best way. A commoner, he's like I guess a regular citizen. He's a step up from a peasant. And in this world, basically women are in charge. Like women are the ones with the harems. Women are the ones with like the leadership roles and stuff like that. And men are kind of seen as nothing more than trophies in a sense. And our main character, his dad basically has two wives. He's married to a noble, and there's kids, from there. And those kids are basically seen as noble and stuff like that. And then there's his regular wife, like his commoner wife, which is where Leon is born from. And they're kind of seen as not nobles. They're just kind of common, a step up above peasants. And anyways, because of this world and because of Leon's status, he is pretty much going to be forced to get married. Or should I say he has to get married before he becomes 20. Otherwise, if he doesn't, he gets what's called a leftover spouse. And a leftover spouse is basically like women in their 50s who are just looking for like trophy husbands in a sense. So if our hero doesn't want to marry a old, kind of thrown away, used up, that sounds really terrible when I'm saying this, but that's pretty much how the story describes it as, a woman, he kind of has to find his own. But it's really hard for him to do so, because like the best way to find like a marriage proposal is by going to the academy. But you can't really go into the academy unless you're a noble. Well, you can kind of go into the academy as a commoner, but you're put into like a separate section. Like the academy is segregated between nobles and the commoners and peasants. So our hero basically tells his dad, like, hey, like, I'm going on an adventure. Like, I'm going to become an adventurer, and I'm going to improve my status by becoming like a great adventurer and discovering some great things. Because that's another way to improve your status among people, is not only through birth, but either through like wars, like knighthood and stuff like that, or by being an adventurer and ranking up in that regard. So he goes out and he basically has this really crappy airship, but he uses it to transport himself to this lost island. And he's able to find this lost island because he realizes, I'm in this game. I've 100% this game. So I know where all the good loot is at. I know where to find like all the good stuff. So he uses his time as an adventurer to basically hit all the hot spots and gather all the good equipment. So he finds basically this portal that kind of teleports him into this like forgotten floating island. And the island like actually looks a lot like his old school. So that's another thing that he starts discovering, that the lost technology seems to be like technology from his world. So whether that's like his world bleeding into this world, or whether that's his world was actually in the past, we don't really know at this point in time. Anyways, while there, he finds an ancient spaceship, which is like one of the best spaceships ever. I think it actually is the best spaceship ever, according to him, like in the game anyways. And not only does it have the best spaceship ever, but it also has the best mech ever. And he has to basically fight the mech, because the mech doesn't want to be ruled by any humans, or at least any new humans. But eventually the AI on this ship and this mech discovers that our hero is actually from the past, or at least his soul is from the past. So it kind of reluctantly accepts him. And yeah, his AI is also we see the AI is kind of like a floating ball. It also becomes its own character, and the AI is freaking awesome. Like, I love the AI as a character. The AI basically does nothing but give our main character a bunch of crap. The AI is very picture Gladys, only less psychotic. But yeah, basically picture Gladys, but with a kind of, this is how I picture in my head, but with like a British sarcastic, passive aggressive attitude. That's pretty much what our character, our AI is. And the AI just does nothing but, I mean, it helps our hero, but it helps him while also like ragging on him and giving him crap. So yeah, our hero gathers all these items, and he basically turns his fortune around. He becomes like a great adventurer, and he's able to get himself into the school. So he finds himself like admitted into the academy, but he's put into advanced class, which is like with the top tier high society people, which our hero doesn't want to do. He doesn't want to be in the top tier high society section, because he, in his mind, all the women in that section are going to be like his stepmom, and he doesn't want to be he doesn't want to be with anyone even close to her because he absolutely hates her guts. He hates that, like, prim and proper high society, snobby, women. He wants to kind of be with the more peasant commoners because his goal is he just wants to find a normal, regular wife who'll just treat him kindly, and he wants to basically live his life as a mob type. So that's why I kind of said it kind of reminds me of the Emerson Shadow. Because Sid in the Emerson Shadow basically embraces being a mob character, and our character here kind of is almost the same. Like he knows, or at least in his mind, he's like, I'm in this video game. I am not one of the nobles, and I am obviously not the female protagonist. So that means that I'm just a mob character. I'm just one of those background characters in this game that doesn't do anything. Like I'm just there as a background NPC. So if I'm just gonna be a background NPC, then I'm just gonna embrace the background NPC life, and I just want a normal, regular, background NPC wife, and live my background NPC life. But of course, things change. So we have our prince and the other nobles that are the targets in the game that, the commoner is supposed to fall in love with. But what happens is a new character shows up. Her name is Marie. And Marie basically ends up stealing the spotlight from the commoner, from the protagonist in the game. And Marie ends up befriending and getting all the nobles to fall in love with her instead of the protagonist. And basically what happens is we find out that Marie is actually also a reincarnated, and she is familiar with Otome games, and she's using her knowledge to basically take the role away from the protagonist and get all the princes and other nobles to fall in love with her so that she can live the wealthy, good life. So that kind of leaves our commoner kind of thrown to the wayside, and so Leon ends up befriending her, and through his friendship she starts falling in love with him. And so that's how his whole mob status kind of starts getting destroyed, is because he starts getting the character that is supposed to be the protagonist to fall in love with him. And Leon's pretty funny. Like Leon is basically asking Olivia about Marie because Marie is in the spot Olivia is supposed to be. Of course, Olivia doesn't know this because Olivia is not a reincarnated, at least as far as I'm into the story. Like I'm all caught up with the manga. I haven't read the light novel, but as far as I know, Olivia has some kind of special powers that have been briefly shown but not really explained yet. But none of them hint that she's a reincarnated, and she doesn't act like a reincarnated. So she's not aware that her route was completely destroyed. Like she's not aware that she's actually supposed to be the one that everyone falls in love with and stuff like that. She's just a nice, normal girl who's just like looking for friends and stuff like that. So Leon starts asking her questions about Marie, and Olivia's like, "Do you find people like Marie attractive?" And Leon's face is like, "No." It reminds me a lot of Eminence in Shadow. But anyways, so Leon befriends Olivia, and that kind of boosts his mob status a bit more. Well, it boosts him away from the mob status a bit more. But what really turns it around is that one of the nobles, Angelica, she's actually the fiancée of the prince. She is pissed off that the prince is in love with someone else when the prince is supposed to be engaged to her. So she challenges Marie to a fight. And of course, the prince and all of his lackeys, they basically side with Marie, and nobody sides with Angelica. And Leon remembers this part in the story. In the video game, what happens is nobody sides with Angelica. Angelica's disgraced. She's forced out of the academy. Her family disowns her, and she's forced to marry an ugly bastard in the countryside and live a poor life, miserable, and dies, basically of depression kind of. Her life gets destroyed. And Leon realizes that while Angelica was really terrible in the game, in this world, she's not really all that bad. I mean, she still has the kind of like the smugness and the snootiness, but she's not a terrible person. So Leon feels really bad for her, and Leon ends up sticking up for her. So Leon is like, you know what? No one wants to represent Angelica. I'll represent her, and I'll challenge the prince and his lackeys to a duel. And Yeah, this is basically where the story completely changes. So Leon is basically forced into a 1v5 match against the prince and his lackeys. And yeah, this is pretty funny. So everyone hates Leon because obviously everyone likes the prince. So yeah, as soon as he shows up to the arena, all it's basically like a coliseum, and everyone gets to watch these battles, and everyone's like cursing out Leon and, you know, saying, "Do your worst, Leon, like you'd better lose." And Leon just basically flips him off, says, "Shut up, you stupid peasants." And this is why, like, I love Leon. He's just so awesome. Like, his personality is the greatest. Anyways, this is going to be a mech battle. So Leon has his super old technology, but really powerful mech, and the name of his mech is called Arrogance. And Leon like asks his little robot buddy, he's like, "Why is it called Arrogance?" "Oh, because it describes you perfectly." So yeah, I'm not gonna talk about how that battle goes because I'll let you guys see for yourself. But it's fantastic. It's amazing. I guess it's like a really great 2-3 chapter long fight. And yeah, I highly recommend reading the series just for the battle. It's fantastic. And then not only is there battles, but there's also like, I don't know how to call this, maybe like space cycles. Anyone who's ever played the Jet Moto games, anyone remember that from like PlayStation 1? I think it might have been for PlayStation 2 as well. Picture Jet Moto, but rather than on water, it's basically flying jet skis. So there's like races like that. So it's almost like pod races, but with flying jet skis. And then eventually there's like Leon having to go out and fight space bandits, and, you know, wars break out and things like that. So yeah, it's pretty much Emerson's Shadow in a sense, at least in terms of its tone and the main character. Main character reminds me a lot of Sid. Yeah, it's basically a fantasy isekai with mechs and airships and other technology. But yeah, it's awesome. Like, I love this series. I'm gonna have to check out the light novel. I wonder if this series ever, like the light novel, ever got officially translated. I don't know. For anyone who's watched, I can't even remember the name of the series, but I woke up with the strongest spaceship and want to live my life in a detached house, something like that. Basically, it's the Sci-Fi isekai. Anyone who's seen that series, the light novel, has gotten officially translated, and it's going to come out in a few months, I think. So like, I'm really excited for that. Hopefully it gets popular enough that maybe we can get an anime series, because that's a great series. But yeah, this is definitely one that, like, if any series deserves to get, you know, an anime and deserves to get like officially licensed and stuff, it's this one right here. This is freaking fantastic. This and Emerson's Shadow. And of course, combatants will be dispatched. But yeah, I highly recommend The World of Otome Games is Tough for Mobs. Fantastic series. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed. If you guys have any recommendations for mangas or comic books or anything like that, let me know and I'll check them out. But I hope you guys have a good one. Take care, everybody. So what did you guys think of that video? I hope you guys enjoyed. If you guys haven't already, please subscribe, hit that bell for a notification, leave a like if you enjoyed the video. And if you didn't enjoy the video, thank you for watching it this far, and I hope the next video is more to your liking. Feel free to check out the playlist that you guys see, and I hope to see you guys next time. Later.